Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants. Good evening, brothers. This is Rhit Moore, past master of Fort Worth 148. Glad to have you back with the podcast.
This is Grant Gates, Fort Worth 148, past nothing, and current Tyler at Fort Worth 148. Glad to be here, guys.
This is Gabriel Jagush, Master Mason with Fort Worth 148, past nothing, and also current nothing. So life is good.
Very
life
good.
Is good.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we have a good podcast scheduled out today. Like we hinted at last week, we're going to be going over a topic at building value in the lodge. Which is something I know we've taken on pretty extensively in the past year at 148, and I think we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yep. And we also have, for this week, a ton of Masonic news. I suppose I should specify that this is the podcast episode for the week of March 2nd. But in this week, we have plenty of happenings. March 4th is the UCLA Annual International Conference. The subject is 300 years of Freemasonry, and they're tracing the evolution of the craft from its public conception to 1717 until today. It's in the Grand Horizon Ballroom at UCLA. If you go to the Masons of California page, they've got a page on the subject. On March 16th, Dufferin Lodge 291 in Ontario is putting on a play depicting a lodge meeting in 1774's London. And so they actually have an 18th century degree team, which is kind of cool. And if you're up in the area, you can reach out to them and check out dufferinlodge.com, DUFFERIN lodge.com. Let's see. Right now, there's an effort to raise funds for the restoration of the building called the Colored Masonic Temple in Birmingham, Alabama. The building was opened in 1924 by the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge Free and Accepted Masons of Alabama. What a mouthful. It's been home of many organizations, obviously the Prince Hall Grand Lodge, but it's also been offices at times for doctors, lawyers, accountants. They had a barber shop in there at one point. They had a billiards room, and they even housed the NAACP for a while. Duke Ellington and Count Basie used to play there. And in the segregated South, this was kind of like this building was... it was a big symbol for black prosperity, in this environment.
Yeah.
Not
hospitable to black Americans, right?
It seems like a good build, a historic building with a lot of, good history behind it. And sometimes having a building like that, getting it restored can bring a community together. So yeah, hopefully they do well.
Yeah, and so right now, the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Alabama is working in conjunction with the National Park Service to get the building restored, but they're not going to get all the money that they need, so they actually do have a GoFundMe page. The address for that is gofundme.com/Prince Hall Masonic Temple, and that's it, GoFundMe/Prince Hall Masonic Temple, and you can go donate towards the restoration of the Colored Masonic Temple. They need to remove lead, paint, and asbestos, and that stuff is expensive. The Grand Lodge is trying to get federal and state historic tax credits, but even with that, it's still going to be tough.
Asbestos removal is something I end up dealing with quite a bit. The regulations on it are amazingly complex. There's air clearance testing before and after, and that's going to run depending on the size of the building, just your testing that's going to be necessary, you're going to see that go into the 5-digit figures.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Really?
Let's see. In more dark news, the Weston Temple. It's a lodge building in Toronto. It was the target of an arson attack. There was a guy that threw a Molotov cocktail through the basement window. It started a small fire. As far as the Toronto police know, it's not connected to the Islamic Information Center attack. There was a fire there too. But the guy that started the fire in the lodge building he's been suspected of other arsons in the neighborhood. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, I looked at this on the Masonic subreddit, and according to one of the brothers from that lodge, the dining room is demolished. So there's no word yet on the condition of the lodge room itself. So it might be fine, but it was also right above the dining room hall, so who knows? The lodge building serves multiple lodges in the area, so we don't know if there's a GoFundMe for that yet, but keep your eyes peeled for the Weston Temple and if there's a GoFundMe for it.
Well, and people should stay vigilant. I mean, because folks are getting bold out there nowadays. So if you've thought about putting cameras up, do it.
Yeah. And then
get yourself protected.
In more positive news, there's a faith-based group in Mount Vernon that is taking care of the Illinois Masonic Children's Home. The children's home was looking at being closed, and the United Methodist Children's Home in Illinois bought that children's home in Murfreesboro, and the ownership is being transferred to them. All of the kids, there's 15 kids living there. All of the kids are going to get to keep living there, and all of the staff is going to be retained. So that's positive. And then another negative note.
Back to the negative.
Yep, you got to finish on a downer. There's more. We're updating on the anti-Masonic stuff in Italy. The Italian government has used it finally got around to using its anti-mafia laws and seized membership lists from 1990 to today onwards. And so they seized records from the regular Grand Lodge of Italy, the Grand Orient of Italy, the Serene Grand Lodge of Italy, and the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Italy. So that's, like 4 Grand Lodges. They seized all of their records. If you visited them, like if you are an American that visited them to go see a degree, like your info is known to the Italian government. So I'm not sure how many people that's going to be an issue for, but just so you know, that's the thing.
Well, and that story will drop off the map now that, kind of all the expose is done. But it'd be interesting to follow to see what comes of that.
Yeah.
If they actually bust somebody or if they just oust some Masons.
Take it and hold that information. And again, you get into a historically dangerous attitude towards individual groups, whether it's a Masonic group, a religious group, or a community service group. This type of behavior we've seen in the past, and it's never turned out well. Under attack. So hopefully cooler heads prevail. Not that we've seen governments have cooler heads, at least as long as I've been around. They typically keep going. But hopefully we see cooler heads prevail, and hopefully that settles down a little bit.
Yeah. I almost kind of hope that nothing comes of it and that they don't find anything, Right now they're investigating to see, because they say, the Masons are involved with the Cosa Nostra and I think you say Ndrangheta, right? And then the Camorra. And I'm like, there's 3 separate mafia groups, right? I hope they find that nobody was involved in any of that, and just so that people can be like, look, you went to all this trouble and made a mess with so many people's personal lives, and you didn't get anything accomplished,
Yeah. It'd be intriguing to follow.
To watch a government investigation fall flat on its face. That's always something I enjoy. So, regardless of the source, hopefully we do see this one fall flat on its face. And, if the mafia is using our craft to hide,
get them.
Get them. Yeah, exactly. So, okay.
Yeah, so that's it in news. We did get a question from Brother Marshall from Waco Lodge. He emailed the Fort Worth Lodge Facebook page, and he asked us. This is a fun question. So Robert William Marshall is his name. He's from Waco Lodge 92. are you guys mad that Waco 92 member Josephus Steiner murdered brother Ripley Arnold, the founder of Fort Worth? And not Fort Worth Lodge, but Fort Worth, the city.
Exactly. He wasn't a member of our lodge, so while it is distressing,
I find it kind of amusing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The quick
Absolutely.
the quick breakdown on that was that Brother Steiner, he was one of the earliest members of Waco Lodge 92. He was born in Maryland. He was educated in Ohio, and he got his medical degree in Pennsylvania. He ended up in Texas because he served in the Mexican-American War, and ended up opening a medical practice pretty shortly afterwards. And so Brother Arnold, the guy who founded the city of Fort Worth, he was born in Mississippi. He's a West Point grad. He was supposedly an excellent singer and a hardcore drinker. And as a cadet at West Point, he fought a duel in a bar. Like, this was as a student, you know. Most places you'd probably get expelled for that now, but, you know. In Florida, he got his first taste of Army life. They started giving him real responsibilities. He ended up marrying a 14-year-old girl and having 5 kids with her. And while all this was going on, he was made a captain, and he served under the command of Brother General William J. Worth. That's a familiar name. And so Brother Arnold and Brother Steiner eventually ran into each other, and Brother Arnold was at this point a major. He ended up being Brother Steiner's commanding officer, and they hated each other's guts. Just hated each other's guts, you know. And I know that sometimes we have disagreements with other brothers in lodge, but I mean, these guys were on another level, because Brother Steiner ended up filing an accusation or a report accusing Arnold of stealing from the army. He said, "Hey, brother, this guy, Major Arnold is taking army horses and selling them for personal gain, which is pretty serious." And Arnold responded by having Steiner arrested for public intoxication.
But tried to be arrested anyway.
Yeah, well, he tried. Of course, this ended up in a shootout.
Wild West story right here.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
This is where it gets really fun.
Yeah, so like all things magical in the beginning of the West, this ended up in a shootout, and Brother Arnold died. And Brother Steiner repeatedly no-showed his court-martial dates, and so they tried to get him into, I think, like a regular civilian court, and but every time that they tried to, wrangle him in, he would disappear. And one time, they sent out a posse of law enforcement officers to go get him, and he was, quote-unquote, rescued from the law enforcement officers by a group of men who, by historical accounts, would appear to have been from Waco 92. And when they finally did get him in court, he was found not guilty of murder, and he was hailed as a hero by the people of Waco. So there's that. He's lived a pretty eventful life after that, but if you want to learn more, you can read more about Brother Steiner at www.wacomasonic.org/Josephus-Steiner. So
yeah, Brother Marshall's got a lot of good stuff up history-wise for Waco 92. I mean, that's the old lodge. It's cool stuff.
And their website is great. We were talking about technology. These guys, I got into exploring their website. Guys, there's a lot of good stuff here. So if you're looking for a place to burn some time and gain some Masonic knowledge, give this page a visit. WacoMasonic.org has a really nicely done website. So these guys have done a great job, and it's worth spending some time there.
Yeah, no doubt.
And we had another. This was a question that was directed to me, but I feel like it's actually something that's worthwhile addressing on the podcast. This is from Brother Gavin Freeman, who's from our lodge, and he said, "Do you have any books to read? Do you have any recommendations for books to read concerning Masonry?" And so my recommendation, because he had seen a couple people with Lightfoot's manual and a couple people with the Monitor, that kind of thing. I recommended The Initiatic Experience by Robert Hurd, because I think Brother Hurd intended that kind of to be read after the EA degree. So I feel like that's a good starter book. How about you guys?
No,
Do you have any books that you recommend in particular?
No, that's become one of my favorites to recommend to guys joining. Another one that we used to recommend, which it's almost cliche, but it's a good one to read before you get too deep into it, is A Pilgrim's Path, because it's got a lot of information on how we got a bad name, and what we're about and how we're perceived from the public. So it's just a good one to read because it's written by a non-Mason who he later became one, from what I understand. But it's a quick, easy read and give you some talking points.
I am not shy when I tell folks that I am a fan of Christopher Hodap. Whether you want to start with Freemasons for Dummies, I know a lot of folks get interested in Freemasonry based on the Da Vinci Code book.
Oh, yeah.
Solomon's Builders is a terrific piece if you have read through the Da Vinci Code or watched the Da Vinci Code and it's brought up questions on Freemasonry. Definitely worth a look. And I particularly enjoyed that one. So definitely worth a read. I know Brother Hodap kind of walks the line sometimes with his writings and text. I know we had a long conversation. We actually, in our old podcast format, recorded a podcast based on a portion of that book, and then decided that
that's a little risque for our jurisdiction because his is different. I'm sure
might have a few objections, so we went ahead and rolled forward without that one. So definitely worth a read. Solomon's Builders by Christopher Hodap. I know you can get that on Kindle. So if you're a Kindle reader, that's a good way to pick it up.
No, and the bottom line is that there's 100,000 books we can recommend once you're raised, but there's certain books you want to stick to. Which the Monitor for me is one of the biggest ones. Read that EA portion, and that's why we like to give them out at our lodge. Because guys, they don't go past. They want to enjoy the process, but they want to know what they're going through. They read the glossary, they read the EA section, and also, like in our library at the temple, there's tons of books written, little books that fit in your back pocket about EA symbolism, fellowcraft symbolism, written by all kinds of, past Grand Masters or, whoever, Scottish Rite Sovereign folks, when they used to really write a lot of books. So they're out there. They may not be in every bookstore, but find a lodge with a good Masonic library because there's probably not one too far from you.
Yeah, and if you want a book that you can write in, for example, I wanted a copy of Lightfoot's Manual of the Lodge that I could highlight, put dog ears in, that I could scribble in, that I could just generally do things to a book that I would like. Sometimes you kind of end up wrecking books a little bit for your own personal notation. So I looked up on Amazon, and they provide new reprintings on Amazon. Depending on the version you buy, it costs like $23. There's a $33 version. There's a $28 version, and they're all new prints. So you don't have to feel bad about wrecking a 1934 Lightfoot. You can buy a new print. It'll be a cheap paperback, and you can go to town on that thing. Start up, underlining stuff. And I feel every Master Mason should own a copy of Lightfoot's Manual because some of that commentary is really enlightening.
Sure.
Well, and since we're worldwide now, just to be specific, Lightfoot is a past Grand Master of Texas who wrote our or added commentaries anyways to our Monitor. He had a monitor attributed to him called Lightfoot's Monitor, which has some great writings in it on the symbolism of Masonry. It applies across the board, no matter where you are. So Google that, and it's on PDF, if nothing else, where you can just look at it before you buy a copy.
Two other places to go for some Masonic reading. We mentioned Robert Hurd. His now former magazine, Living Stones magazine, are all available on PDF. So you can download those and put them on your iPad or read them on your computer. There's a lot of great Masonic reading there. The other place that you can get some good Masonic reading is the Texas Grand Lodge of Research. If you become an associate member, they send out readings that are written by other brothers. These are effectively academic texts regarding Masonry. I know we have a brother currently working on his, and he hopes to submit his over to the Grand Lodge of Research and look to have it published. So, go Brother Brewer. We know he'll do a great job. And that's another good place to go if you're looking to get something to read in the Masonic genre. Those are good places to be. And one of them is free. The other one is relatively inexpensive. I think associate membership is
$25 or something.
Yeah,
it's not
I know
bad.
it's less than 50. So definitely another good spot.
Yeah.
Well, and you may have to be a Master Mason to do that, but in the same light, like with Robert Hurd's magazine, you can go through and cherry pick stuff, your degree, degree specific, because a lot of them too are just general articles about Masonry in general that are good to read. Why our membership's the way it is, and all those kind of things, and different ways to look at them. It's good stuff.
Yep. So,
absolutely.
All right. So after all that news and all that discussion of questions, right on. Building value. What about it, guys?
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, what you have to do is you have to go buy the value and then you build it, and then you have it. So that's pretty much the podcast today. And
yeah, invest in your 401k, guys. We're done.
Get all matching funds.
Yeah.
No, when you hear value, you immediately go to money, and Masonry. We earn master's wages. So if we're talking about value at Lodge, we're not talking about money. Although we're going to hit on dues for sure, because for me, the way we're raised in society, that plays a part in valuing things. Unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, but it plays a part, but a small part compared to the actual value that you've got to have at Lodge that men are attracted to today.
Absolutely. It's a huge part of it is the volunteerism? I don't know how you say that. Anyway,
Close enough.
Huge part of that is the voluntary aspect of Masonry, Dues, we're going to have to do a whole separate episode on that one. But yes, building value, you're going to have to build a value in your lodge that corresponds to the dues that you charge. So if you want to charge, obviously in Texas we can't charge this because we have minimums. But if you want to charge $12 a year and do nothing, then, more power to you. You're a lodge that does nothing because you charge $12 a year. If you charge a lot of money, then you should be providing a heck of a lot of value. So,
right.
Yes.
And
there's
value,
no doubt.
Value in the lodge, I think the number one value that most men are looking for, at least Gabriel, for our generation, the value that we're finding in lodge is a connection and a brotherhood. And building that is not a monetary thing. While you can sometimes you spend money on food and stuff like that, you can build a heck of a lot of value just with good brethren and treating each other right. And that's where it starts for me. And again, I fall into more of the social Mason category. For me, it starts with the value between brothers and the care that we have for one another.
So, that's the way, no doubt, the conclusion I've come to. It's that feeling you have when you go up to Lodge, when you hang out with these brothers. And not to tout Brother Hurd too much, but he's the one that gave us the word egregore to kind of give us a occult word to use for that word for the atmosphere created in Lodge. And I think that's the key. That's the real value these guys are looking for. Do they want to come back up there and hang out with those guys and work with them?
Rhett, do you want to expand on egregore? Because that is not necessarily a term that some guys have heard before. Do you want to expand on kind of maybe a textbook definition on it?
Yeah, pretend like I've never heard it before, because I've never heard it before.
No, it was the same thing. We had him hit the brakes when we had him in at Lodge, and like, wait, what's that word again? What does that mean? So, if you Google it, there's a little bit of stuff out there, but it's not a word that's really caught on, in common language. So on Wiktionary, it says egregore comes from the Greek word egregorius, meaning wakeful or watching. Mm-hmm. The definition of it that we're talking about, the occult definition, is that it is an autonomous psychic entity composed of and influencing the thoughts of a group and people. That's a little far out there, left field, but we all know there's an atmosphere to, a venue you're a part of.
Absolutely.
The first one that comes to mind when I was doing this was, so you go to a comedy club, before the first comedian comes up, you already have the giggles. There's an atmosphere in that comedy club. And, you're already in the mood to laugh. Same thing at church. When you go to church and you sit down, you don't have those giggles anymore at all. You're there for a whole different reason, and there's a whole different atmosphere.
Yeah. You kind of set that precedent by the way that everybody conducts themselves before the actual event. The ambiance or the flavor or whatever has already begun to settle in, just like you say. So
yeah.
And every lodge sets their own flavor. I like that word, Gabe. Flavor to your lodge. Everyone's going to have their own flavor and their own feel when you walk in the lodge room. Some lodge rooms that you visit, the lodge meeting when they open the lodge is very reverent and very serious, and up in before, during, and after, it's a very serious event. When you walk into our lodge, you expect some hugs. You expect guys to be, chit-chatting and having a good time and enjoying each other's company. We have trouble many times getting started because of the atmosphere that we've created for one another. I know when I walk in the lodge and I see Mark's going to give me a hug, and he's going to squeeze the air out of you every time, and I love that about him. So that's kind of the atmosphere that you said, and it's going to be different between every group of guys. So you don't have to go and shoot. You want to set a goal. And set a goal for how you want your lodge to feel when you walk in, but you don't have to do what the other lodges are doing. We're all Masonic brethren, but if you want to have a group of guys who every time we show up, we're in a tux, we have white gloves on, we are taking this very seriously even if we're just showing up to pay the bills, or if you have a group of guys who everyone is blue collar, and listen, we want to wear jeans and a collared shirt, and that's what we want to wear when we show up to lodge. Your dress sets your atmosphere. Your attitude towards one another sets your atmosphere, and it builds it into what you want it to be. That's a big part of building that value and what you want your lodge to represent.
No, I think there was another definition that someone had written in a magazine, the Gnosis magazine. It was back in 1987. They defined egregore as a kind of group mind that is created when people consciously come together for a common purpose. Ooh. That one doesn't sound as far out there, which I think that's ultimately what guys see, that if it's a unit up there working, pumping together, and they see cylinders of the machine working together, they want to be a part of that. Yeah. Whatever it is you're doing, whether it is educational, esoteric, or if it's the social aspect, whatever, they want to be a part of it.
Yeah. And, now that you mentioned education, like one of my first thoughts, when I go to what do I value in lodge is education, right? So that's one of the, if you want to build an easy way to build value for your lodge is to start doing an educational program. If you don't have an educational program, you should have one, right?
No, you should. And everybody hears that and they think, oh, we're going to start doing that at stated meeting. And that's great. You should have something fun at stated meeting. And I mean fun. It shouldn't be a 10, 15-minute presentation that keeps us there till 9:30. Everybody's there in business mode. Again, there's that atmosphere that when you walk in for stated meeting, you're there minutes, pay bills, have discussion on this, scholarships, whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden you switch to education mode. You don't really have time to dig into both. So while you do something at stated meeting, it's very important, some fun aspect of the symbolism, whatever, that's easy, maybe a little interactive. You need to have a night to where you can discuss these kind of things.
I even saw one article that argued that you should never do education at your stated meeting. And I don't agree with it necessarily, but in this article they said, don't bother. You need to have a separate night. It's a called meeting that you have every month, right? And they said don't conflate the two. Never even bother. So I thought that was an interesting, if somewhat extreme take on that.
I actually agree with that. And the reason I agree with that is, okay, so you come to stated meeting, like Rhit said, and your mind is, we're going to open up, we're going to read the minutes, we're going to pay the bills, we're going to talk about lodge business, and we're going to close. So your mindset is there. To me, I agree with Rhit, you got to have something fun in stated meeting, because sometimes that's the only thing guys can make it to each month. So you got to have value in your stated meeting. But to me, when you come to an educational event, rather, your mind needs to be in the right place to receive information. So I would actually tend to agree with that extreme stance that you should have an educational night, not necessarily because of time and because it's stated meeting and the stated meeting guys don't want to be there, but you have an educational night so that men who show up and the men that are presenting are in the proper mindset. You're in a giving or a receiving mindset when you receive that education, and it allows us to dig into it deeper, guys.
I think we've put too much emphasis on the stated meeting having to be the meeting that we do everything at. And to try to squeeze it all in, you're getting, there's some guys that are there for education. There's some guys there that want to hear the minutes and vote on the bills. They want to be a part of that. And maybe the education guys, if you had another night, would come to that as opposed, not to mention if you're the presenter of education, you're going to enjoy it much more where the setting is totally revolving around that subject.
Yeah. I think it would be kind of neat. So for stated, maybe if you go into something monitorial, right? Like you do like a 5-minute max educational section of the stated meeting where you go over, you read the actual monitorial section, you discuss it, max 5 minutes, and then you move on and you say, hey, we're going to talk about stuff like this way more in depth. We're not going to talk just monitorial. Come to the book club, or come to some places have what they call a beehive club. Come to that.
No.
And so,
sure.
What we're doing right now is a perfect example where we're going to meet up. We meet up first Mondays, Master Masons only. We talk about symbolism. We get interactive. We talk about activities in lodge. But it's a whole lodge getting together, and it's nothing but that conversation, whatever topic we go to. It's just a special night. That's all you're going to do. You're not going to floor school. You're not going to work on questions and answers with EAs. You're there with all Master Masons where you can cover the scope of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that comes to mind is some lodge rooms are not necessarily laid out in a way that is beneficial to a presentation.
Oh, yeah.
sometimes holding it in your dining room is going to be, it's going to make people, one, help them pay attention. Two, you can set up projector screens, TVs, if you want, visual aids, things like that maybe you couldn't either get set up during a stated meeting, or you have more capability outside of a tiled lodge room to set something like that up. So that's another thing to consider if you're going to go if you're going to build value through education. Don't limit yourself to being in the lodge room for education. That's
actually a great point. Because, if you have a book club or whatever, right? I would love, actually, I think a book club would be great. If you have a book club or whatever, or an educational group, or a beehive club, or whatever you want to call it, you don't need a lot of space to do that. So, yeah, you're right. Just like rotating between members' houses or picking one guy's house and designating it. Grant, I think that's a fantastic idea.
Meeting on the Discord app.
Well, yes, actually, if you want to have an educational group that meets in cyberspace, you can do what we're doing right now.
and you can do it
from
your cell phone if you want to. So if guys are traveling and out of town, they can still meet with your book club on an app, whether you're using Discord or FaceTime or a group call or Google Gather or one of the million other things out there. Wouldn't suggest Snapchat. You're probably not going to be able to get too deep with Snapchat, but the tools are out there.
Yeah,
make them work for you. Most of these tools are free. The ones that aren't free are relatively inexpensive and
worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
no doubt.
If somebody tries to send me a Snapchat of something Masonic, all they're going to get is like a 10-second video of me just yelling "Clandy, Clandy, Clandy, Clandy" over again.
All right, I'm going to try that now. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. Also, to touch on education, kind of another thing, the Fort Worth Scottish Rite has an educational committee, or I don't know what they call, if they are called a committee or if they're a group, but it's an educational group. They go and they tour lodges. They usually come by each temple or organization's building once a month or so, and they give presentations on all sorts of stuff. So, one presentation that I went to was the symbolism of the EA degree. Another one was the symbolism of the Fellowcraft degree. There was another one, the ancient landmarks. And, are there actually ancient landmarks? Which is a whole different discussion. And one of them was just, hey, let's dissect the prayers that we use. It's interesting stuff. So for your attendant bodies, so I know in Fort Worth, it's the Shrine that has the educational group. Your town may have a Shrine educational group, or it might be a chapter educational group, whatever.
Yeah, our town has Scottish Rite. You said Shrine.
Yeah. Oh no, that's what I said. In Fort Worth we have the
Scottish Rite.
Scottish Rite.
And just looking at the Scottish Rite, for our Scottish folks who are interested, fortworthscottishrite.org /upcoming education events. It looks like they have an education event in Fort Worth once a month.
No, and you hear everybody say they want more education, but there's not very many people there, and you would enjoy it. We've got to support these kind of things to grow them for sure. Education is something that it's like the questions and answers. Nobody really wants to sit down and learn something. But when you end up doing it, you feel a lot better about yourself, Yeah. So those are just as important to support as the business aspect of the lodge as well.
Yeah, and the educational stuff is just a different way of doing fellowship. I tend to go towards the nerdier side of things. So my fellowship is heavily centric around education. But sometimes when we talk about general fellowship, like we were talking about earlier, sometimes it's just fun. Cigars, bars, cars, that kind of thing.
It's crucial because
you have fun.
You can create niche lodges that are just completely esoteric minded people. You'll grow somewhat, not real fast. But for me, in my experience, the ideal lodge would cover all of those areas and be robust, where you have social activities going on all the time. You have guys there that want to volunteer in the community and do things, whatever it may be, to help the community. You've got guys that want to plan the cigar nights, guys that do the crawfish bowls, you name it.
Oh, Lord, we need a crawfish boil.
Yeah, we do.
I miss crawfish.
Well, and that kind of brings us to another way to build value in the lodge is social activities. On my end, social activities with the lodge, I think we get so isolated in. It has to be a Masonic reason to have a social activity. We have to be doing something Masonic. To be honest, the things that a lot of guys get more value out of is, let's put the wife and the kids in the car. Let's all pitch in on a meal. Let's have a big meal together. Let the kids run around and play and have a good time. There's a ton of value in that. Again, we have to recognize that, yes, we are Masons, but we are Masons because we are in a brotherhood. And brotherhoods, we don't exclude our families. And I think a lot of folks don't participate because they don't feel like they can bring their families. So having family-friendly events, and not just once a year, but a family-friendly event that is relaxed. We're showing up in T-shirts and jeans. We're having a good time. Maybe we're having a cigar or two, which is always nice. But let's have some events that can have the whole family involved, because when your family is involved, and your family will then support the educational night. They'll understand why you want to go to the education. They'll understand why you want to go to the stated meeting or the master's meeting. It's a lot easier to tell your wife, hey, honey, I'm going to go up to the lodge, when she knows it's Rhit, it's Gabe, it's Greg, it's, Mark, it's all these people that she's met before and she's comfortable with, rather than, this is my secret group of friends. You're not allowed to know my secret group of friends. My secret group of friends is mine and mine alone, and you don't know nothing about them.
Yeah, which is just incredibly damaging,
No, it is.
Yeah, exactly. You want to have an open brotherhood. Brotherhood is family. So include guys.
This
getting
is
out
not,
there.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Gabe. I was rambling on anyways.
Yeah, no, and so obviously, one of the things that I keep hearing from a lot of older guys, and this is not meant as a knock on the older guys that recommend this or on the organization itself, but one of the things that I hear a lot of older guys recommend is, you got to get your wife, if you're married or when you get married or whatever, you got to get your wife involved in Eastern Star and you got to join that as well. Now, I think that's a great idea. If your wife wants to get involved in something that involves ritual, that involves formalized fellowship, all that stuff, fantastic. Go do that. Join Eastern Star with her. But I feel like a lot of people do kind of get the idea that in order to do any level of fellowship, that she has to join Eastern Star, and that you have to join Eastern Star, and that's how you do things together, and that if your kids want to get involved, they have to join Rainbow or DMLA or whatever, right? And so then you got to... everybody in your family is in one branch of the Masonic family tree. And that's cool. That's fine. I know people that have their family set up like that, and that is awesome. But it's also important to remember that it's just as important to involve, your wife, kids, all that. Like you say, Grant, involve them in Blue Lodge social stuff, because you don't need to be... you don't need to swear an obligation like we do just to hang out with us, right? It becomes a very sort of exclusionary thing, and, formalizing it in, you have to, it's those magic words. Y'all have to, join Eastern Star, join DMLA, join Rainbow.
Y'all have to.
So,
absolutely.
And I think Grant...
join them, but don't formalize that. Don't make it a requirement.
Yeah, and I think Grant hit the nail on the head, because when you're married and you're hanging out with a group of people a lot that your wife doesn't know, that just doesn't work anymore. You know what I mean? That used to be fine in the 50s, I guess, but it doesn't work that way anymore.
Well, that's when, you used to, if you were a Mason or, well, the thing that I've heard is, oh yeah, like my dad was a Mason or my grandpa was a Mason back in the, 50s or whatever. And he kept all his stuff in a box under the bed. And we were told that if we ever went near it, we would get the living daylights beat out of us. Right.
Yeah.
So that's part of that, putting masonry in a box, keeping it hidden away. It's not productive. It just doesn't help anybody.
Not to mention she should already have met 2 or 3 of the brothers if they were married at the time of investigation. They should 2 or 3 brothers should met, so she shouldn't feel real uncomfortable. But my wife in particular is friends with many of your wife's brothers at lodges that she talks to every once in a while and has conversation and enjoys hanging out with. So
absolutely, I can't tell you how excited Carly gets when I say, "Hey, we have an event going on at the lodge, and Angie's going to be there." Boom! I mean, she's ready to be there because her and Angie have built a friendship, and so you get this. If your wives become friends, it's a whole lot easier to hang out. It makes life a whole lot better. So, I know. To me, that is a big part of building value in the lodge, and I think it's something we've done really good at. We've had a few brothers that have really led the way on that. Rhit, you and your wife and brother Senior Warden have really led the way on that. It's been fantastic, not only with our family day, which is a formalized event, which puts everyone in one place to kind of meet and greet and get to know each other, but it's the little events. It's, hey, let's meet up at Gabe's place and let's bring all the ladies and let's get a brisket going and go from there.
Put all these people in my 825-foot house.
I would have people, I have so much square foot of dog in my house at this point. It's hard to put more than 10 people in the house with dogs sitting on everybody.
No, and it's not uncommon to have a few wives at stated meeting that eat and don't have to cook dinner and sit up there and chat.
Well, and that's something that I noticed about going to the Scottish Rite stated meeting dinners, because I am not yet a Scottish Rite Mason. But I go to the stated meeting dinners all the time because, they ask you to pitch in $12 and you get a pretty decent meal and you get to listen to a speaker and stuff. It's pretty great. But a lot of guys bring their wives. I would say that like half the guys that attend bring their wives. And I think that's incredible. Like, that's awesome. I went to, and this wasn't a stated meeting dinner, but I went to the Robert Burns Scottish Rite dinner. And they celebrate the life and poetry of Robert Burns. And, I mean, and that is intended as a dinner that you bring, your significant other to. But it was just cool to meet all these guys. Like, I know this guy from Lodge. I know this guy from running into him all the time at the temple. And now I'm getting to meet his wife, his kids, whatever. It's super cool experience, So some of the appendant bodies are really awesome in terms of getting the wives involved, getting the kids involved, that kind of thing.
No, it's definitely important. I think really to kind of bring it full circle on that issue. I mean, because I think once you start getting the wives involved and you get all these programs running, something you cannot let slip by, which we did at our lodge for quite some time, was investing in Master Masons. Because right now we have 9 EAs in the hopper, with 2 candidates. So you can get wrapped up in all these degrees, needing a floor school, train new folks, teach EAs questions and answers, and all of a sudden 2 years have gone by and you've never held a meeting or never done anything that was Master Masons only. You haven't talked about the symbolism in the 3rd degree in 2 years. The
only Master Mason's lodge you've opened is a Master Mason's degree. You
got it. Yeah, if you're lucky and you get that feeling that I'm becoming a degree mill, I'm becoming a degree machine, or I'm not doing degrees. We're not doing anything but floor school and teaching candidates. What about me? What about the Master Mason? What do we do?
Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it would be neat to rotate through the degrees that you open stated on. So 1 month you open in EA, 1 month you open in Fellcraft, 1 month you open in Masters. I think that'd be pretty neat, but that's kind of tangential to that. But
Yeah, and if you ask me, I think you put less importance. You make that a business meeting. Not that you can't have a little education and music and make it a fun night with dinner and fellowship. Short, sweet, make it business. Have that extra meeting, whether you're talking about whatever, opening whatever degree. If you open a lodge, not just sit around and discuss stuff,
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of value in that. And Rhit, that was something that when I got raised to a master, that was actually something I struggled with. And it was a problem that, like you said, we've kind of worked on now, where I felt like, okay, I'm a master mason. What am I doing different now than when I wasn't a master?
Yeah. Well, the cornerstone of what we do is degree work. I mean, we can't survive without doing degree work. We all know that. But, while we join to be a part of that and do that, we still want more. There's room for more. We came to learn,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
and if you're doing the same degree, there's always stuff to learn. I mean, every time we do Forest School with Brother Sam, you learn something.
yes.
He's really good. Well, Sam is awesome, but he's really good about knowing kind of where you're at in your learning process. And he'll start with the words, and then he works on your footwork, and he brings you along. And before you know it, you know what you're doing. But at some point, you do want to dig in deeper, and you want to have those discussions about the master's degree, or about things that you really can't talk about around your EAs or your fellow crafts. And you don't want guys to feel like you're excluding them, but you also want to have, and I always hate this phrase because it's used so much in corporate America, but you want to have a carrot out there. Why am I working to be a master mason? Let's have something to chase,
No, that is really, if you want to call it, a side effect of that, because there's a reason you've earned the title for Master Mason. It's because you want to discuss stuff about that, so you have to have nights for that. And while that will motivate guys if they want to be a part of it, because that was a big deal when stated meetings went. When I first joined, you could only open stated meetings in the master's degree. And I believe it was past Grandmaster Donnie Broughton's year that went to EAs were allowed in lodge. You had the choice. And a lot of the past masters were against it because they said, what's going to motivate them to be a master mason? And for me, I thought, man, if this is what we have to look forward to, what am I doing here?
Yeah, that would drive me nuts. Like if I got raised and be like, all right, now you get to go to stated meeting. I'd be like, no, this is.
You're like, what?
Our minutes.
I enjoy going to stated meeting because it's just another chance to go see my brothers and go get invested personally in my lodge. But if I had not been able to attend stated meeting as a non-master mason, and then had been told like, oh, here's this awesome privilege of getting to go to stated meeting, I would have been like, this is awful. It would be the worst reward. And I'm sure that there are some brothers that will disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But I would have been disappointed.
Well, and it loses value. The whole process loses value because now being raised to a master mason means you can go to stated meeting and you think that's what the majority of what masonry is about. And it's not the case, to where if you have another meeting where you're talking about, it may not be philosophical issues. It may be like the other night when we hashed out the Big Brother program, our mentoring program, with everybody, all master masons there. It may be hashing out the fundraiser you're doing, whatever, but it's master mason, it's lodge business, voting member business. But more than not, it's, philosophical discussions to where you get to know guys on a different level.
Yeah.
For a master mason's meeting may say you have a group in your lodge that everyone is just ridiculously busy. and you have a Master Masons meeting, that's a great opportunity to roll in that education part. Have someone give a 15, 20-minute presentation that sparks that philosophical debate and that philosophical discussion, not just have it, it's going to come up naturally depending on your guys. I know in our group it happens pretty quick, but if your group is having trouble getting into that discussion as Master Masons, have someone bring a topic, have a 15-minute presentation on the topic, open it up and let you guys go.
Yeah, it's so simple. Like, for instance, this next Monday, we're going to break up into groups and dissect the 3 charges and have, because they're very directive, have each group line out how that affects their life and how they apply it. And then we're going to share it with each other. And hour and a half will go by like that, and it's, time to go, or you can keep going for however long you want,
Yeah.
It's that simple. Open the monitor and point at a symbol and then pass out and say, write down what that means to you, and you share it. It's maybe a minute long, but if there's 15 of you there's 15 minutes.
Yeah.
There you go.
So what would y'all say? I guess we've been touching on it a little bit. So what would y'all say are, for you, the rewards of being a Master Mason in terms of things you get to do at Lodge?
Not have to work on questions and answers.
Well, now,
I'm just kidding.
Rhit doesn't have
I feel
to
like
work
some of
on
our
it anymore.
listeners can probably
He knows them so well.
empathize.
Now, some of us still have to work to teach our little brothers. I've found that I am doing more work in the EA degree than I did when I did my own proficiency to make sure that I can teach it correctly. So that's some of us are still working on that, Rhit.
I work on it all the time, and that's really my favorite part of it. And it surprises me more than anybody that I enjoyed the memory work part of it. While I like the memory work, my favorite part's teaching the new candidates and running over what this means or what that might mean and getting their take and telling them mine. And I love the theatrics of the degree work.
Oh yeah, the degree work is rewarding, and it's on a totally different level as well. I mean, I just remember even just during a degree practice, I was, let me think about how to phrase this. I was playing the part of the senior deacon towards the end of the second, section, and I was having my mind quietly blown. And it was just a degree practice. But I was sitting there, I was like, the senior deacon in this case might be, maybe not intentionally, but this reminds me a lot about Moses and parting the Red Sea.
Yeah.
And so I was standing there just, playing that part, and I'm going, oh, that is just so cool, and I might be totally off base on that, but it was still kind of like that neat personal little revelation,
Yes,
it's what does it mean? What it means to you is so much alive. So
yeah,
that applies to masonry. Gabe, to answer your question, I think the thing I enjoy most is getting to, and this probably came through in our last podcast. I really enjoy doing the investigations and getting to know guys. For me, that's the most rewarding part. Although I do really enjoy the degree work, and I think you got to have solid degree work if you're going to have value in your lodge, especially, for the guys going through the degrees. Boy, if your degree work isn't solid, they're not feeling like they're getting a lot of value out of their time.
Yeah. There's something that I actually wrote down about that. I have a bullet point for ritual. We've already talked about the degree team and stuff like that, but one of the bullet points that I have under ritual is put your mouth where your dues are, and that is specifically, in terms of degree work, we talked about it. We touched on it earlier. If you don't charge a lot of dues, then, the standard of expectation is not terribly high, although we would hope that you have great ritual work despite having low dues. If you charge a lot for dues, then I feel like, again, personal opinion, you are obligated. If you charge exorbitant dues, you should have brilliant degree work. So,
Are you talking about degree fees or dues? Because
dues.
I mean, really both, but degree fees are the same thing, because some degree fees are $60, $75 a degree.
Yeah.
And, that's,
And some of them are higher than that.
yeah. I mean, like ours is 250. And one of the things we did before we raised that was we got our degree team on point. Of course, it's fluctuated. That was years ago. But when we do an entered apprentice degree, most of us are dressed very similar. We're on point with our ritual. Everybody knows where to be. It's a good show for the candidate. And he doesn't think, I just paid $250 for that. He's like, man, he's more thinking that was the best $250 I ever spent.
Yeah. Or hopefully, hopefully he's not thinking too much about money anyway, but yeah.
If he thinks about the money at all.
And guys, if you want something that goes a long way with your degree work, coordinated suits. You don't have to, in Fort Worth for degrees, we wear black on black on black. Black suit, black shirt, black tie. You don't have to do that. You can go black suit, white shirt, black tie or whatever, or you can all wear like blue, shirts or blue ties or whatever. But have everybody that's playing a part wear something that looks like it's part of like a uniform. That goes so far.
Especially the guys, in the three officers' chairs. And to me, when we finish a degree, I want their head to be spinning. I want it to be something that they're thinking about for months on how blown away they are with the degree work. I don't, like Rhit said, you don't want them to be like, man, that was a waste of time. I worked all this time to get a petition, and that's what it's about. You don't want that thought going through their head. You want them thinking, holy cow, what just happened?
And the candidate looks back on that moment and goes, so all those guys memorized all that stuff. They came dressed up. They really put some effort into that. What does that do for him? That builds value. It instills value of what we're doing in the lodge. And now all of a sudden that foxhole mentality is being created, or he sees the value in what he's doing and wants to be a part of that. And is.
Yep.
I think we lost Rhit.
Yeah, I think we did.
He's grayed out. So I'm going to continue. It builds value in the lodge to have good degree work, and it makes guys want to come back, and it makes them want to chase the next degree. I think that's another part of it. It adds value. The getting together and having floor school, like Gabe said, opens up new light to people. There's value in floor school, and you play the way you practice, right? So if you get in forest school and you're goofing off and you're making jokes, there can be a little bit of that. But you want to be solid in your forest school, because that's going to equal solid degree work, which goes back to it adds value to the new brother, and it keeps them coming back. The other night I was blown away. We had our degree team on the floor, led by Brother Weir. And I showed up ready to do a degree, and I had missed the practice. And they're like, "Hey, we got this." And it was guys that I hadn't seen do degree work, and they blew it away. They blew it out of the water. And we're sitting there with guys who are used to being in the degree, and we're watching these guys work, and they were awesome.
Yeah, I think one of our guys, I don't think he'd ever even played a part in a degree before. He may have done Tyler, I think, but I'm pretty sure he didn't play any parts in a degree prior to this. And we went and made him senior deacon, and he just killed it. Amazing job, And so some of these brothers, they just have this, you never know if they have the aptitude until they try. And so with all the guys that we had on that degree team, some of them had played minor parts before, some of them had never done any parts before, and all of them did just a totally solid job. And it's incredible because a lot of this stuff is just you don't know until you try it. And that just really applies to degree work. And you do get a lot out of it.
There's no doubt. I mean, because that's one of the best ways to not only create value for the guys doing the degree work, but instill value in the guy coming through. I mean, good degree work equals a lot. You know, there's so much more to it than just because that's the way we should. You know, there's power behind it. It's important.
Learning a part gives you confidence in other portions of your life. You know, if you have been struggling with public speaking, you know, getting up there and putting yourself out there, man, clearly I like to talk, so public speaking has never been an issue for me. But if you have a brother that you teach a part and he goes and he blows it away and he knows he did, even if it's a small part, even, you know, that he's playing in the degree, if he's walking, you know, if he's doing the smallest part in a degree and he does it right, it builds confidence for him, which adds to his value in the lodge. So degree work can be a real boon.
For me, learning the senior deacon parts for the EA and particularly in the master's degree, where they really were the senior deacon to me at least, is a lesson in empathy and in stewardship. You know, taking care of people. So, you know, obviously we can't go into details why. I would love to go into details why, but we're not tiled, so.
No, I mean, you get a chance to be in some high pressure situation that's ultimately nerfed to where you know, if you mess up, your brothers aren't going to wear you out. You know, they're going to be easy on you.
Well, and I found in learning the degree work over the years, and you know, I feel like I've invested in the degree work. I find the cadence and the language of the degree work when I come into high pressure situations, which happens for me about every 30 seconds during the workday. I'm in a high pressure situation. If it's something that I'm not confident in, a lot of times I go back to a cadence that I've learned somewhere else and fill in the words that are applicable. So for me, it's added value into my career. Knowing the degree work, it's come around and it's added value somewhere else in my life, which is a good thing to have.
As it should. And you know, to kind of bring it back to as far as what you charge for dues and degree fees, you know, whether we like it or not, does that not signify the value that something is according to the price you charge for it?
Yeah.
I mean, are we not subconsciously, or, you know, however, you know, when you go to the grocery store, there's two items right there. You've got the regular and the off-brand. Well, you know, there's a reason it's cheaper.
Absolutely.
You know, so
let's get that Grey Poupon mustard, guys, and spread it about the lodge.
And you know, carry on.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, if you do choose to raise those fees and dues, it's gotta connect. You know, you've got to commit to returning that value. They've got to see why they invest that. So, you know, while raising dues and fees is an important part of it, it's not the only way to create value. It doesn't have to be done that way. There's lodges that guys get just as much value out of paying $60, $75 a year and doing awesome fundraisers that they have fellowship at, and they love it, and there's no reason to change it.
Yeah, and for anybody that's listening to this and going, man, these guys are really elitist. Hey, we're not knocking anybody that doesn't have, because our dues are pretty high. But if your dues are real low and that works for you, then awesome. More power to you. But you do what you need to do financially.
You've got to be honest with yourself about those dues. You can't say we can charge $60 a year, but we can't afford the electricity come November and December. We have to do fundraiser for electricity. You got to raise your dues to pay your base. But when it comes to scholarships and all those extra things, you know what I mean?
That doesn't have to come out of your dues. Yeah, your dues can be operating expense. You make a choice. Your dues can be operating expenses, or you can charge a level of dues that allows you to say, "Hey guys, you know what? The weather is going to be awesome this weekend. Let's go out the smoker. We're going to buy a couple briskets. Meet at the lodge at 3. Let's have some fun." You can make that choice, or you can make the choice to keep dues at your operating level and then have brothers donate. Hey guys, we're going to plan a month out. Who wants to donate towards the brisket? And that's just a choice that you make within your lodge and with your brothers. We've gone one direction with it. And I think since we've brought up dues, we do need to mention, guys, if you need to raise your dues, you got to consider your guys who can't make it, your fixed income guys, your brothers who can't make it. Don't make it a burden on those guys. I know one thing we do, we don't try to put the burden back on our guys who are on a fixed income. We're not going to do that. And so that's one of the biggest pushbacks you get in a dues conversation. And if you make that the upfront start of, guys, we are not going to push out our brethren who can't make it. Yeah. Yeah. You just don't do it, because at that point you lose your older members. And sometimes, those are the guys who know the degree and can teach you. So you don't want to push anybody out. But you want to make sure you can have your operating expenses and then do your fun stuff however you want to do it, whether you want to do it dues or whether you want to do it out of, hey, brother Bill works at the meat shop and can get us a brisket at a lower price. However
no.
You do it.
Yeah. I mean, we've just chose to roll it all into one. We don't put out the kitty at meals, so nobody has to donate cash at the stated meeting meal. All that's rolled into our dues, and you don't have to do it that way. It's just the way we choose to do it. And if you do that, you better have the value. We bring in speakers from all over and, pay for hotels if we need to, or pay for gas, whatever. So it's not like we just charge those dues to put in the bank. No.
We try to make it work.
One of the things, we've kind of touched on that is the social events and everything like that, other lodges are invited to, even non-Masons are invited to, right? One of the biggest value assets of a lodge is presence, right? So the way I look at it is Masons, non-Masons, Masons in your jurisdiction, or district. So let me rephrase that. Non-Masons, Masons in your district, Masons in your jurisdiction, and Masons everywhere, right? So the way I look at it is, if you want to reach non-Masons, you got to do community outreach. If you want to reach Masons in your district, you got to visit other lodges, and you got to get them to visit you. And a great way to do that is if you have the money to, put together a bunch of briskets. If you want to reach other Masons in your jurisdictions, show up to Grand Lodge, host statewide stuff. And if you want to visit Masons everywhere, visit other jurisdictions. Obviously in Texas, we can pop over to Oklahoma or Louisiana. If you live far enough south, you can actually go visit a Mexican lodge. Or you can go in the state and visit a separate jurisdiction in the state if you get all the paperwork and go visit a Prince Hall Lodge, So presence, we talk about the smoker and the brisket and meeting other guys. You got to have presence, and that is also something that, like we say, the older brothers, that's something that they can help a lot with too, because a lot of those guys are plural members of a lot of lodges. And, you want to get to know, hey, Brother Bob is a member of our lodge and he's also a member of that lodge. Like, let's go visit Bob's other lodge. Let's get to know them. So
that's a great point. Yeah. And presence isn't necessarily just visiting other lodges. Presence is, I know I met a really cool guy off of a post in the Texas Freemasons. He posted that they needed help removing a tree off of somebody's house. And so I went and helped. And I got to tell you, I met a really cool guy that day. And I've gotten more than person than they. I think Rhit, are you eating a snack, bud?
Oh, my bad.
Gotta mute that mic, man.
There you
I
go.
had dinner while we were on this thing.
Technology and the lodge.
But I think there's value in getting out, putting yourself out there. Like Gabe said, visiting other lodges, but sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's going out and helping somebody. And like I said, I've gotten more enjoyment out of knowing that brother than I would have gotten being home that 3 hours on a Saturday and watching the two. So there's other ways to do it that add value to Masonry overall. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was the value we get in Masonry from being Masons and being able to travel. Having a good reputation as a lodge, as a group of brothers amongst other Masonic lodges, helps you travel in a way where you come in a little quicker, right? If they know your lodge does great degree work and you show up and there's a part that they need to fill, they can trust you to fill in that part and do what you need to do. So I think there is value in building a reputation for your lodge and being known as a place that does good degree work. And if you have trouble with degree work, man, reach out. If you have trouble with educationals, reach out. There is a group near you that loves to do it. So,
you can be known for community support too, because it's not just, ritual work and all that. If you're the lodge that throws a pancake breakfast every year for the local school and you end up serving, hundreds of kids pancake breakfast on a Saturday, then make that your thing. Find something and get really good at it. It can be educational programs. It can be ritual. It can be fish fries and pancake breakfast, or it can be putting on, seminars, or getting brothers in all one building together to enjoy something, whether it's social or educational or whatever. It's okay to actively consider how will this look for my lodge? How will this make my lodge look in my district? It's okay to consider that in your preparation for your events.
Yeah, you don't want to feel
visiting lodges
like vanity, but it means something, right?
Well, it should anyway. But I was going to say, visiting lodges, you can go to your lodge for so long and kind of get caught up in the droning on of it, and there's no better way to snap out of that than to go visit. Just look online, find a stated meeting, find a degree, go by yourself, go with a buddy, whatever, and go to another lodge and feel the warm welcome you get. Go visit a couple. It'll snap you out of any funk you got going on with the drama at your lodge or whatever. The first couple of years I was raised, my 148 had drama nonstop.
Oh, you don't like drama?
I would go to, one lodge for 2 or 3 weeks doing floor school, and then go to another, on Tuesday nights, and then another on Thursday nights, and stay there long enough to get to know the guys, but not long enough to get involved in any of the drama or asked to join or run the chairs, and learn my work or learn some of it anyway.
Yeah.
And eventually things settle down and you feel recharged and you get back in it in your lodge.
Well, and going to other lodges, you can add some value to your lodge. I know one thing that so when we went and got the traveling gavel, which is still in our lodge room, everybody,
Come get it.
Come get the traveling gavel. We'll be happy to have you. Stated meeting on the second Monday, 6:30. We eat at 6, right?
Yeah.
We're there by 6. I think we say 6:30. We're there by 6. Good. Come on, come get it. Anyways, enough of that. One thing that we found, guest cards. We didn't have guest cards, and we went to visit this other lodge, and the senior deacon handed out guest cards. And we thought, man, that's a great idea.
Oh, where they fill out like Master Mason, Past Master, whatever?
So when the senior deacon walks up, instead of having to try to put it all on his phone, you have cards, and you have a place for their email. So when you have an event, hey, we're doing pancake breakfast to raise funds for our scholarship group. You have an entire email list right there. So that's something that we added value to our lodge by going and meeting a great group of brothers at their lodge. So traveling can add value to your lodge one way or the other.
Yeah. If you can travel, you should take full advantage of that. That's one of the, we talked about benefits of being a Master Mason. As part of your lodge presence, go travel, visit other lodges. So
it's fun. I enjoy going to other lodges, and I travel quite a bit for work. I'm going to be in Arkansas tomorrow. Unfortunately, I don't know if I want to go sit.
I don't know if you can.
I don't know if I can right now.
I think Grand Lodge of Arkansas may have shut that off. You'll want to double check.
Well, if it's Texas, chances are you might still have visitation with Arkansas. However, no guarantee.
Check it. I'm pretty sure the Grand Master said. But yeah, definitely check it. I don't want to start quoting stuff out the side of my mouth.
Yeah, I need to check it. But barring that issue, if I get stuck overnight somewhere while I'm traveling, the first thing I do, I get a hotel, and then I Google Masonic lodges near me. Yeah. Because I'm going to try to find a lodge that's open.
And you can always call the secretary and say, hey, are you guys still do we still have visitation reciprocity with, because they'll still recognize us, but do we still have visitation with Texas? And then
I need to call our secretary.
Yeah.
See if we can visit over in Arkansas. I need to get that guy a call. He should be up to date on that. So
we'll figure that out.
Yeah, we'll look.
My new favorite nickname for the Grand Lodge of Arkansas, the most worshipful Grand Lodge of Arkansas is the most worshipful Grand Lodge of North Korea.
It is getting crazy.
Okay.
Sorry, any listeners in Arkansas, I sincerely apologize.
But that is a something that not necessarily is adding value to your building value in your lodge, but definitely builds value in your Masonic life is visiting other lodges, and that's a huge one for me. The fact that I can be anywhere and go find some fellowship. It's big.
And I think that's a great way to kind of tie it all together, because you said that's not a way to build value in your lodge, but a way to build value for you in Masonry. That's the basis of egregore. If each guy has a common goal and we're building value in ourselves, it comes together as a collective force that just is contagious. So we could talk about this all night of the different ways you could add value, but it starts from the minute that new candidate walks in the door to the, all the way through till he's a past master or whatever it may be.
Till you put him in the ground.
You got it. There's a continuous of volunteerism to add value to this process. If you don't use it, you lose it. If you're not involved with Masonry, it's not going to be valuable to you. But if you are and create things that you enjoy, it's going to instill value for you, which is going to give it value for me. and then create value for me. He's going to create value for the next guy, so on and so forth. Because if I'm doing something for the lodge, I'm eventually going to burn out on that.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing something for me that benefits the lodge, I'm not going to burn out on that because I see the value in it. There are moments and times when we do things for the lodge. For some people, it may be ritual work. For me, that's the fun part. But some people may think that's a chore, and that's fine. You don't have to do it all the time, but you may be called upon, or I may have to go help with a fundraiser, which is work for me. I don't enjoy that part, but I see the value.
I think that's a good way to kind of start getting wrapped up here is no matter what you do, find what you like to do and apply it to your lodge. Whether you like to cook for everybody, you like to be the cook, be the cook. If you like to do the degree work, do the degree work. If you like to teach the memory work. If you like to read and learn, run your educational program. Find something that you have a passion for, apply it to your lodge, and go. Just go with it. And
if you like to smoke cigars, plan the cigar gathering. If you like to have guys over for a beer, plan the crawfish bowl. Plan the whatever it may be. The frisbee golf day, the golf regular day, whatever it may be. Plan it, make it happen. That's how our family day came about. The first time we had it, year one, it was just me and I think 2 or 3 other Masons from Lodge, and we had a blast. But we got tired of doing nothing but Lodge all the time, and we're like, hey, how can we do more? How can we enjoy this?
Yeah. If you find something you enjoy, apply it to your lodge. And that will build value for you, and it will build value for your lodge. So if you're not stroking your passions in your usual vocation, and your usual vocation is a grind, take your passions, apply it to your lodge, and you'll find something great comes out.
Yeah.
So plan that scholarship, whatever.
Speaking of planning, we have a long list of events. Also, one of our listeners wanted us to point out that tonight's episode was recorded in front of a live studio audience. So, granted, a small live studio audience, but yeah, nonetheless. So, Saturday, March 4th, in Dallas, 9:30 a.m. Come register to clean up Reverchon Park. You can park at the Scottish Rite Hospital for Children on 2222 Wellborn Street. For more info to volunteer, call 214-559-7825 or email reverchon.roundup@tsrh.org. Saturday, March 4th in San Antonio, the Alamo Observance. Check out the Grand Lodge website calendar for more details. Saturday, March 4th in Fort Worth, the first weekend of the Fort Worth Scottish Rite 2017 Spring Reunion. Get you some learning. This is happening for the next 2 weekends as well. It's all 29 Scottish Rite degrees. Call 817-335-6004 for more info or visit fortworthscottishRite.org. March 11th, Young County Masonic Lodge number 485 is putting on their 10th annual public auction at 9 a.m. The location is the Old Ag Barn in Fireman's Park on Highway 67 in Graham, Texas. 64th District on March 17th at 6:30 p.m. for $15. You too can attend the Grand Masters Banquet. I'm probably going, so you should come join me. March 25th, I've mentioned this on the previous episode. There's going to be a Commandery Workday. All 3 of the Commandery degrees orders are going to be conferred at Phoenix Lodge in Weatherford. They're doing breakfast at 7 a.m., and then an hour after that, they're getting rolling with the orders. Arlington Commandery is going to be involved. Southside Commandery is going to be involved, and Weatherford Commandery is going to be involved. So it's going to be, like a festival type thing or like a workday. I don't know, but they're putting on the orders. So if you want to be a Knight Templar, talk to these guys. Talk to the guys in Phoenix Lodge. So sign up for that. March 25th, Haltom City Lodge is having their annual Veterans Fish Fry at 2 p.m. They're going to have live music. I've already mentioned this one as well. April 8th, 2017, Webb Lodge is putting on an outdoor degree. Reach out to them at weblodge.org. That's web with 2 B's. And, as always, Fort Worth 148 meets on the second Monday of each month, starting dinner at 6 p.m. for a 7 p.m. stated meeting at 1100 Henderson Street, Fort Worth, Texas.
And we have the gavel.
Yeah. So I wanted to finish out with a quote, especially since we were talking about adding value to the lodge. This is a quote by Sir John A. Macdonald, who was the first Prime Minister of Canada. "Give me better wood, and I will make you a better cabinet." And I think Brother Macdonald would know a lot about building value in the lodge. He was the former Grand Senior Warden of the UGLE. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So he was initiated in 1844 in St. John's Lodge No. 5 in Kingston. I think that's also Ontario, but yeah.
No, that's poignant.
Yeah. Give me better wood, and I will make you a better cabinet.
Yeah.
So, Fort Worth.
Quality, not quantity.
Yeah. If you want to contact us, visit us at www.fortworth148.org. We are at Fort Worth Lodge 148 on Facebook, and you can email us at info148@fortworth148.org. Email us questions, harass us. Don't send us death threats, but those will also be mildly appreciated because it means we're getting noticed. So yeah.
Who got haters?
Next week, our show, our topic is going to be how to walk and act as such, what it means to be a Mason.
This is Rhit Moore signing off.
Grant Gates signing off. Stay square and level out there, guys.
Gabriel Jagush signing off. Dare to be square.